So I also learned something tonight, that 50% of the people speaking are from Michigan, so this is awesome. So I want to talk about finding and solving problems and what I have learned. So first, how I came here. Look at that. All hail Michigan. So I also came from Michigan to go to Rhode. I studied graphic design and graduated in 1992. And this was when I started my career as a designer here. So I started out, and my first paid job was working in consumer goods. And the good news here was that consumer goods companies, they really had design problems. So I worked on Swiss Army for about 7 years, and some project highlights where I had the privilege of launching the entire watch division and working on all of that for 7 years. I also launched Swiss Army fragrance and did tons of knife projects. So this part of my career was more about graphic design and the technical aspects of production and printing and packaging and color correction. So I was definitely putting my problem-solving skills to work here, and I learned all the things that I learned at Rhode. So there was a lot of on-the-job learning. So at this point in my career, I was working my way up from junior designer to designer, senior designer to art director. So there were two really important things that I learned working as a designer in consumer goods. The first was that clients' problems, they didn't come with creative briefs. So at Rhode, we were told that the project would come with this very organized, considered objectives and defined target audiences and delivering the need and the competition, the tone, the message, the budget, right? So so that wasn't happening. And that I was told to think as a problem solver in design. And what I learned was clients see designers as people who make things rather than solve problems. So projects really came in the form of design this packaging, or hey, do that brochure that we need for this show, and oh yeah, we're gonna launch a fragrance, so could you design the packaging in the bottle? Sure. So I guess it would be one of the biggest complaints that designers might have, is that we see ourselves as problem solvers, and designers and clients often see ourselves as people who make things. So a project would land on my desk, and I wanted to stay true to what I had learned at Rhode, and I decided I would identify the problem, and then I would solve the problem. So let me give you an example. So I was tasked to update the clamshell packaging for the knife. So that's the plastic packaging you can't open. And this packaging, this was when the knives were sold in mass retail stores. So it was a self-serve item. And the other thing you need to know is that the Swiss Army knives were also sold in kind of higher-end stores. But in this case, it was just a box that was placed underneath the counter. And in the stores, someone would help you select a knife. So they would tell you about the different knives and show you, and you would purchase a knife. So the current clamshell packaging, and I wish I had an image, but I don't. The internet didn't exist, so I tried a Wayback Search, but it didn't happen. So the clamshell packaging looked like what you would kind of think of mass market, so what I'd call kind of Kmart packaging. So lots of facts on the front, because you had to say, lifetime guarantee, 100% stainless steel, 7 tools, 11 functions, and the name of the knife. So this is really important. So what I learned was that because there weren't salespeople helping you purchase a knife, the client thought that you had to tell all of this information on the front of the packaging so you could convince someone to purchase the knife. So I thought, this nightmare continued on the back of the packaging. And so I kind of identified two problems. One, it was really crappy, and I thought, this is kind of off-brand for Swiss Army, right? This beautiful Swiss brand, it's like, okay, what is this? And the other thing was that the problem was really that the customer was trying to choose a knife that they were selecting. So I was thinking really, less is more here. So my design solution was very simple. So I used a black background, right? And I wanted to make the blade stand out, and we photographed the knives in like all these different positions so you could see the differences between each knife. And I only left the name of the knife on the front of the package, and of course, the logo and the tag. Oh my God. I had so much convincing to do on this project. So because my design idea was a radical departure from what works and the way things are always done and everyone's favorite. Well, no one else is doing it that way. So, but thank God I won the battle here. And you guessed it, so sales of the knives went up, right? So this was great. I had my first win in design, the client saw the role design, and they saw things differently, and my approach was appreciated. And then something surprising happened. The high-end knife stores started requesting this clamshell packaging. And you have to understand that these were stores that had it in a case, so it was great because this self-serve clamshell packaging was now more high-end brand that matched the store brand, right? So they wanted it in their stores, and they could put higher priced items in their cases and focus their attention on customers with selling more expensive items. So design had delivered a win-win for their clients, and they sold more knives. So this was great, I was very happy. Now on to the second lesson that I learned in this part of my career, which was I was learning the things that design could not solve. So design cannot fix too much content and not understanding what is important and what's not important. So clear hierarchy is the _1 thing that design needs to be successful. The other thing that design can't fix is an incorrect concept. So because if you get an incorrect concept and you use design, it usually amplifies the incorrect meaning that's there. Then the next thing is that design cannot fix incorrect positioning or for a product or a service. So it just generally amplifies the confusion, right? So this was the beginning of me understanding, like, wait, what is the connection and the disconnection between business decisions and clarity and design, right? So I was a problem solver and I was always focused on finding those problems. So after 8 years, well, I just keep growing as a designer. So I was recruited by a branding firm in Lexington, Mass. And I eventually opened their Providence office. But this is where I stopped working on consumer goods, although that was fun. And I went to the world of business-to-business marketing. So this was in the .com boom, and the branding was hot. So this is, I'm not serious, this is more of a joke slide, okay, branding, right? So what I liked about this was that at least brand identity had a clear intersection with business goals and objectives. After all, I was creating the entire identity for a company. So this was something I really enjoyed. And then I was learning a lot about the different aspects of how consumer goods was different than business to business. And I was learning about brand strategy and marketing and identity design. And so it was great. So then the other thing that was happening in 2002, the .com boom went bust, okay? The other thing you should know about 2002 is that the Nokia 6010 was the top selling mobile phone. And the iPod was in its second generation, and 9.1 of the world's population used the internet, and it looked like that. The other thing that happened in 2002 was Orange Square was born. So I started Orange Square, yay! I was looking for more control over my work, but really, I was looking for the choice of actually no more jerks allowed. So the .com boom came with so much money. I honestly wouldn't mind if that rolled around again, but the jerks that it came with was unbelievable, okay? So I was kind of done using my talents for things I didn't believe in, and so I started saying, okay, what kind of a difference do I want to make in the world? And, you know, what are the clients making that difference? I'm gonna go try to find that. So the other thing that I was focused on was the exploration of a better process for design and marketing communications. And I wanted to figure out how to find out these problems that clients didn't see. So my whole focus is still to try to give design what it needs to be its best. So to date, this part of my journey has been 15 years of discovering what works and what doesn't work. So this was also my transition from being a designer to being a business owner, and hopefully a leader that's sparking some interest. So people take really different approaches in marketing communications. So some people take the approach on the left, which is more focused on kind of supporting the goals of a company and turning that into marketing communications. But what I have found is it's more like the image on the right, which is there's always some kind of obstacle in the way. So for a client to achieve its goal, and half the time they just don't even see the wall, they don't even know it's there. So I thought a lot about the differences of these 2 points of view. And first, I thought about the fact that, you know, as a designer, I just really love problem finding and solving. And designers were all chronic improvers. We love change when it comes to clients' work. And I just said, you know, the other thing is, you know, just think about, for all the designers, you know, like a before and after. I mean, oh, the big reveal, it's so exciting, right? So we're really addicted to these things. And I had to ask myself, are you just a problem whore at heart? And I was like, huh, maybe, okay. So, but there are 3 factors that I've been thinking about that make me think about, you know, that I'm convinced now that problem finding and solving is the way to go. So the first factor is the global economy. So the global economy creates the need as well as the opportunity for a lot of disruption. So because of disruption, my clients' problems overall have become a lot more complex. So I want to talk about 2 types of problems. So a complex problem is where you know the problem, but you do not know the solution. And a wicked problem, this is a real term, this is not, see, when I'm out of New England, this gets a laugh, but in other parts of the country, okay? So a wicked problem is you don't know the problem or the solution. And what I'm finding is the internet causes a lot more wicked problems. See, I gotta get out of New England with the wicked thing, but it's a scientific term, I'm telling you the truth. So, but it's funny. So the next thing is that I thought about the shift in what happened in marketing in my career. So everyone who's more my age, oh, let's just harken back to the glory days when there was no internet. And it was regional or national marketing. Things were a lot simpler. And we used one-way delivery channels, television, radio, billboards, right? Life was simple. We had a big megaphone. We went out and we just pushed our message out. No one said anything back. It was awesome. And if the campaign worked, right? If the campaign worked, sales grew. You got awards. So we were all feeling so good about ourselves. Awesome, we're so awesome. Okay, but if it didn't work, you just got fired. And then they hired a new agency, right? So this is how, remember how this worked? So, this was another great example if you didn't find the right problem to solve, right? Because you got canned and it didn't work. So the internet comes along and everything changes, right? We go to this global, connected economy. We have 2-way conversations, and there's all this multi-sided marketing platforms. So we now have the problem of the overwhelming, endless complexity of customer touchpoints, right? So this complexity has caused a massive lack of clarity, all right? So when I think back about clarity, starting 25 years ago as a designer, this was the exact problem that's been showing up at my desk, but it's even worse now, right? So I think that lack of clarity is what stands in the way of great communication. So what I've learned, if you can find and solve that clarity problem, then design can work at its highest and best potential. But if you don't or can't find that problem, then the project becomes much more difficult, and all the designers will be nodding, like, oh yeah, I know that torturous project. Because you can only produce the best design you can produce with that input, rather than the best design solution that you could offer to create clear, compelling communication. So now I want to talk about what I've been working on, which is all along trying to find problem-solving tools. And the other thing that I've learned is that there's these kind of cascading effects of clarity that I think are really important. So I've always been looking for and testing and refining. It wouldn't be a speech if you didn't put one process slide like this up about the problem-finding tools. So the tools that capture authentic people insights are the ones that I believe in. And so it's taken me years, and I found several tools that I love to work with, and they're very human-centered. And so where I think you need to start is with organizational clarity. So organizational clarity is about connecting work and your purpose, and I think that's one of the really important things working in companies that's lacking today. So we have a method that solves complex and wicked problems, since that's what our clients have. And we use this method, and we take stakeholders on an off-site retreat. The first step in this process is the team involved in the work has to choose the single most important burning question that they need to solve. One. And the off-site retreat, we take that burning question, we take it through these 9 lenses of organizational clarity, and in this 2 to 3 day rapid retreat, we get some pretty amazing results because we have a clear picture of what they have, what they need, what needs to be addressed. The other thing that happens is they start to have a view of what's going on, so they can start to align their expectations about what's going to need to happen. And each person can identify what their role in this work is going to be. So this starts people to be focused around what needs to happen. And I think that I'm starting a new company that's all around organizational clarity around growth opportunities, which I think is a huge need. But for this presentation, we're not going to go there. We can talk later about that. I wanted to stick with organizational clarity and kind of staying in the orange square lane and talk about brand identity and marketing. So in business-to-business companies, you have this core, which is the products or services that you have, and the people that you're making them for. And so in this case, you need organizational clarity to define your mission, vision, and values. And as well, at that point, you need to state what your clear objectives are. At this point, you should be able to see your competition clearly, who is the best substitution for you. And you should be able to clearly state what makes your company the only, which is your positioning. So once you have this type of organizational clarity, so if you're going to move to brand identity design, you have to have this kind of organizational clarity so that when you move to making all these many decisions that you're going to make about the visual identity, which is the look and feel of a company, you're better equipped to start to make these decisions. So once you have organizational clarity and you have a visual identity, you can start to focus on customer clarity. So customer clarity is, we use the strategizer method. So this method is defining the exact match between the organization, what they're offering on the left, and what the customer needs and wants on the left. And when you find that clear overlap, then once again, you get a level of clarity, and you also can have design value propositions for each of the different customer types that you need to communicate with. So when you know what the customer cares about, this is the point where you should go to the experts inside the company and start writing expert content that's meaningful. You know they're going to care about it. And so with the right meaningful content, designers can create compelling communication. And whether it's a white paper or a video, they can choose the best form to connect that content, express it in the right way. So marketing, it's this kind of, like trying to condense all these thoughts. It's really focusing on a customer journey. So this idea of awareness, I think of awareness as stopping someone in their day. Either you're like, hi, introducing the company for the first time, or stopping them and saying something interesting that they're gonna read and engage with. And then consideration, I think of that as, kind of longer form content that is, that helps people, should be helping people in their jobs currently. Sales is when you've built trust and a customer chooses to work with you. And then retention is what you need to do to keep building and adding that value. And then a recommendation is when a customer shares what they value and trust in your services with others. So there's these cascading effects that marketing needs, okay? And I think that, that once you have figured out who the audience is, and you know the exact fit between what their needs are, and you've written that expert content that is based on their needs, you've turned that into the right, meaningful, compelling communication, and then as you move forward in that work, you have to figure out all marketing. So imagine, if you will, that you weren't thinking about these kind of cascading effects and clarity, and here's where you enter marketing, right? Where you're gonna say, oh, what platform should I use? And let me figure out how to talk to customers. This is what's driving people nuts, and a lot of people are having mixed results with this. So my position is think about clarity. So my journey from design to marketing has reinforced the entire way. Look, the idea of problem finding and solving. And I think that customers need clarity, and marketing needs clarity, and design certainly needs clarity. So as a leader, I believe in using the right problem finding tools to support and empower design. And as a facilitator, I believe in empowering people to uncover information and organize ideas and empower their decision-making skills and be able to prioritize action steps and align expectations. And as a marketer, I believe in authenticity and customer-centered solutions. And as a designer, I believe in the power of creative, critical thinking, and that visual expression is the best way to create shared meaning. Thank you.